let me show you some examples of the practical implementation. And let me start with some challenges that you are very likely to face. And we see that in, I think, all organizations we work with, every single one. And so when we try, or where companies try to implement this, here are some common challenges. Number one is confusing error traps and hazards. Very common. Again, this is a skill. Building clarity on what's the difference between the two is important to drive the quality of the output. Another very common one, using behaviors as error traps, like selecting a wrong tool, pushing a wrong button, or advice like keeping hands away from pinch points. Another very common one, using cognitive states as error traps, not being aware, not knowing, underestimating, or some labels like overconfidence and complacency. Those are not that helpful. Yes, the cognition, so how our mind and attention works, absolutely is a factor. But in practice, two things happen. One is the fundamental attribution error, which is the cognitive bias and over tendency to point to the person as a problem and explain the behavior by referring to the personal characteristics. And that is a bias that affects the majority of population, and we see that every time. The second is what you look for is what you find. So this is a phenomenon that shows that people find information that confirm their pre-existing mental model. So if the mental model is that complacency is a problem, this is what will be coming up. And so, I've studied a lot of cognitive and behavioral psychology. That's fine. In practice, we need to help people to differentiate and go beyond that. Because if we say not being aware or not knowing, that's not good enough. We need to ask what is responsible for giving people awareness or giving people knowledge in the workplace. Because in organizations, we don't work just with random people from the street, right? And so if they don't have knowledge or awareness that they should have, that's not necessarily on them, but there is something in the organization that should have provided that. And we can ask, what is it? Because otherwise, if we just end with not knowing or not being aware or those other cognitive states, then we gravitate towards solutions like remind, refresh, run a campaign, posters, etc., which are not helpful and not that effective actually to reduce the risk. And then we've got the challenges how to build the skills of doing this well among the safety team, operations, and frontline employees. The problem that what you look for is what you find, being that you can give the updated template to people and they will tweak it in a way to confirm what they already know. So if they're not prepared, they will use the new template to just give you more of the same. And the question is who will coach and ensure the quality of the output and how to achieve the common understanding and common of this topic and the common use of the terminology.